Welcome to Harlem Radio 115, where we come to the most elevated places, most elevated spaces, and we go talk to the most elevated people. Now, part of the reason why Harlem Radio 115 is here, hold on, let me introduce myself. I'm your host, Late Night, and what we're trying to do is elevate our community. Now, a lot of the questions come from how do we elevate our community? First, in Harlem, there's a lot of spaces and places where it's not so cool to be around. It's not like a tourist attraction. Yes, it's thriving in other ways, but in some areas it hasn't been built up yet. So we're trying to figure out, is there any hope to Harlem now that the rent is getting higher? People are struggling time day in and day out. We're just looking for something and someone, some people or groups of organizations to see if we can, let go of some of the pressure that's on the local individuals of Harlem and New York City and in Queens, and then eventually we're going to get there. But, talking to certain people, I would like to think that, there are organizations and groups and individuals trying to maintain and try to do better, but also trying to help others reach a certain plateau, reach a certain goal that we have, you know, so we can all benefit from. One of those people is James Manning, the pastor who's actually running for mayor. This is a lot of the things that he says. A lot of things that I agree with. That that we need help with, and since he's running for mayor, I thought we'd give him a little chat up. We chop it up a bit. And so here's some of the things that went on in there, and I want to just highlight some of the things. The whole interview will be, of course, on YouTube on the second part of this. But for the first part, I really want you guys to get some highlights on basically certain things that were mentioned and certain things that were said, just to highlight some of the issues that Harlem and Harlem residents and Harlem and people and the individuals of that community go through. So here's a few things that was said.
Number one is I genuinely believe that I can help people, that I can deal with and cure many of the problems in New York City. Homelessness is one, crime is another, um, and I believe that I can actually make a difference. I've been a pastor for 44 years. I've ran a homeless shelter for that many years, or 40 years at the very least. I've ran an education system in a multi-million-dollar ministry as well. Um, and so I believe I can uh, change the order of New York City drastically and justifiably. But also I want to be able to help people. I feel that no one really cares about the poor or the working class. That there's really no genuine, sincere care for them. So that would be item number two of the triangular, if you will, reason. And the other reason is that this church has been ripped off and threatened by the Mellon Bank in the city of New York for nearly 15 years. They have they threatened to take our property, and I've just had enough of the corruption in Wall Street, the corruption in corporate, and the corporate greed, and the carelessness about New York politics. So I'm in the race, and I'm going to win it. I'm going to win it for those reasons I just said you just a moment ago. They have lodged a suit against our church, a tax lien suit against our church for water and sewer charges that we have been fighting in the courts for 15 years. It started out as a $36,000 lawsuit against our church for water and sewer. And As you can see in this building, it's completely used for church purposes, but because we have housing upstairs for the teachers that work in the school and for people that take care of the building, they would not exempt the entire building. And so we have been fighting that. It has mushroomed from $36,000 to now $4.6 million with an 18% draconian interest. But I want to be able to correct the injustices that are going on in New York City, mainly because politicians and corporate greed and those that are in power tend to not really care about the concerns of people that are working class. And generally, what happens is that working class don't get the kind of attention. The suffering continues. Politicians promise, I'm not a politician, and I never will be, but I'm going to take the office of mayor because I believe I can. Beyond that, and closely associated with that, number two is that I want to help people. I've been in this community here in the heart of Harlem through the crack epidemic, through now the homeless epidemic, through the genocidal, if you will, gentrification. I've watched the suffering of the people. I've watched young men nodding out on the street on drugs. I watch men sleeping on the sidewalks. I've watched that pain, and I really want to help. I know that I can. I know that I have the ability to be able to do it. And so that's one of the motivations. And then the other motivation is that the city of New York has been really involved in racketeering in terms of taking people's property. I'm not the only one. They just haven't been able to take this one. There have been foreclosure after foreclosure after foreclosure on people's homes, especially black and brown people, destroying generational wealth. If the city puts a tax lien against a property here in the city of New York, and for water or sewer charges, or for taxes that are not paid to the city, usually the person who has that tax lien put against them can't afford to pay the taxes on the house at the time anyway. It's sold to a real estate developer who then puts 18% interest on that. How are you going to ever pay? The property is gone. It's a racket. They've done the same thing to us. They did it 15 years ago. But thus far, for the past 15 years, I've been able to stave off them taking our property, but they have not quit. It started out at $36,000, and now it's up to $4.6 million with that 18% interest. It's absolutely incredible. But I've been able to fight them. But I'm going to go to City Hall and I'm going to fight for people who've lost their property, that they get their properties back. Well, one of the things I think that I'm going to do, in fact, I know I'm going to do, is that I'm going to enact legislation that will infuse $41 billion into poor, working class, and marginalized neighborhoods. The U.S. Census Bureau of 2023 stated that nearly 2 million people in the New York City area live at or below the poverty level. That's a lot of people living in poverty in New York City. While over the last 10 years, America has created over 1,000 new billionaires. What I'm going to do is I'm going to infuse, the $41 billion will come on this wise. I'm going to raise the minimum wage from $16.50 per hour here in New York City to $27 per hour, which would then raise the minimum income of every household that has a minimum wage status to $51,000 per year. Or across the board at 2 million people, raising it from $16.50 to $27 per hour would bring annually 41 billion new dollars to these communities. That means that people will be able to afford better housing, be able to afford better food. I met with a man earlier today, said, I want to take a vacation. I haven't been able to take a vacation. It would increase lifestyle. The thing of it is, and the opponents of minimum wage, they argue, well, it's going to cause small businesses to close. The problem is with that is that if you're running a small business, I understand potentially you got to better manage your business if you're going to raise the wages. But the problem is that people who are living okay, who are making 70, 80, 90, $100,000 a year, don't realize how painful and how hard it is to try to live off of $16 an hour, off of what is it, $27,000, $37,000 a year. It's hard to live in New York City off of that little bit of money. You're always living in fear. You're going to have to live in a substandard housing, substandard, if you will, services and supplies, no hot water, sometimes rats and roaches running all over the place. You can't afford, 10, 20 years from now, black and brown people will outpopulate them, that there'll be more black people, more brown people who will possibly vote Democrat than white people. That white people are dwindling in their population in America, and so they're growing. So this whole business about immigration is not about crime. Now there is crime going on, and it shouldn't happen. Anybody does it, should cut their heads off. But that is what this is about, what immigration is all about. That's not what's going on in America right now. What's going on in America right now is stopping brown people and black people. You notice he's not exporting any people from Finland, from Switzerland, from Germany, from England. It's all people who are brown skin and black skin. And I'm not a racist. They are. They are the ones who are afraid of the fact they're going to be overpopulated. And so as a result of that, Trump understands that. But by the way, I don't think Trump is a racist. I think he's just doing whatever it is to give him political power in terms of, so those are the people, and he wants to spread fear in the hearts of people. We got people that are members of our church. Well, we got one man from Mali. He's got 2 students in our school. He's moving to Canada because he's scared he's going to get picked up. His wife is going to get picked up and sent back to Mali. His children gonna get picked up. That's fear. The man's an engineer, came from Mali, got a degree, got an engineering degree, and he's striking fear in a whole lot of people. The man is a pathological degenerate, and it needs to be, and somebody needs to say it.
Now, with that said, is there any doubt in your mind that some of the places and some of the spaces in Harlem is struggling to survive, struggling to thrive. And with all of these things that are going about, it makes you wonder, how are these things gonna be fixed? What's it gonna take? And he does mention that some things about it, but usually it does take the community and its people to recognize where the problem is, where the problem stems from, and how we can you know do procedures or use procedures to prevent these problems from happening again and try and create solutions for them. So that's why I love this talk that we had, because, you know, with all of the things that's been going on, all of the changes that we've seen, we're not really seeing the change in the people that we're really looking for. And so some of the other things that he mentioned was this.
It's a massive undertaking, as you have just stated, and understand. The truth of the matter is, in terms of black or African American people, we need a moral revolution. Our morals and mores, if you will, our lifestyle understanding needs a quick and a powerful upgrade quickly, because we're headed in the wrong direction. Forget about racism right now. We're headed in the wrong direction. See, the problem is that if we, let's say African Americans or blacks, are going in the wrong direction, that's going to increase racism. Listen, there's tension and racism between people from South America, or from Mexico, or from Guatemala, Nicaragua, El Salvador, for 11 years. I've called it the Middle Passage Arch. What I plan to do when I do become the mayor of the city of New York, and I will, is to enact legislation both at the state, city, and federal level to build what is known as the Middle Passage Arch on 125th Street and 7th Avenue. If you'll notice, Adam Clayton Powell, 7th Avenue runs north and south, 125th runs east and west. Well, there's an island right there in the middle of that. I plan to put the one base over here on the north side, a base on, and then build it up 50 to 70 feet up in the air as a stone monument and memorial and gravestone for all the people that died in the Middle Passage. That is the time when the slave trade was happening between 1600 and 1900, and people were leaving Africa coming to America. It took 3.5 months to 4 months for ships to reach America. A lot of people died, and they just didn't make it, and they were thrown overboard. Babies were thrown overboard. Husbands watched their wives. Wives watched their husband. Some of them made it, but not everybody. I want to build that arch and memorial for those persons that died. What that does, and you may, the reason I said it's a bit esoteric, you may not appreciate what that does. And when we dedicate it to that purpose, and not for racist reasons, by the way, I'm doing it because those people, their voices were buried beneath the waves. Their cry comes out from underneath waves right now. Nobody never recognized. We don't hell know what their names are. They're just buried, and nobody knows where. Nobody. And so I want to answer that cry by putting a stone monument. And the stones I'm going to use, I'm going to get from Ghana, from Angola, from Sierra Leone, from Mali, and we're going to put all those stones together to build that stone creature. What that's going to do, I believe that that will give more righteous pride and dignity to black people than anything, including what Dr. King did. But when you think about what that means, there's never been anything memorializing black people as that. There's never been anything that has given credit as memorial, as powerful as that. I believe that would give us something literally and both spiritually to look up to, and would change our minds about slavery, and change our minds about being here in America. On one side of the Atlantic, you got Africans who want to come here, and because they know they can make a great life for them. On the other side of the Atlantic, you got blacks who are already here who don't have enough damn sense to realize what the Africans on the other side realize. I believe that this will bring a sense of unity, will then bring a sense of healing between all the nations, all the people. And I'm going to do it too. Look at it when you go back out there. Look at it. It's up on the wall. Been out there for 11 years. I've been planning this. I didn't just plan this for the mayoral campaign. I've been planning this for years. I'm going to get it done.
Isn't that insightful? If anything else, it is insightful. Now, am I endorsing this guy? Maybe, maybe not. We'll see when the time comes. That is my personal decision, and I hope you guys make your personal decisions because it's going to affect everybody. Now, and part of elevating the community, a lot of things that were said and mentioned, does have a huge impact on how we are developing as a people, neighbors, co-workers, schoolmates. These are people that we're interacting with on a day-to-day basis. So if we could even try to uplift each other in a positive aspect, in a positive way, we won't have to see the negativity that comes in place of it. You know what I'm saying? There are a lot of people and a lot of organizations trying to help. And if we focus on the help that we're trying to get, maybe it'll help us, motivate us to do better with ourselves as individuals. Thank you for tuning in to Harlem Radio 115. This has just been another exclusive interview and talk to the people of Harlem. So deuces, and hopefully you guys can all learn something, if not at least gain some insight.